What's up, everyone? This is Noa Dalzell, and I'm here with a live version of You Got Boston, reacting to the relatively breaking news of Al Horford signing with the Golden State Warriors. ESPN's Shams Charania reported about an hour ago that he has officially agreed to a multi-year deal that hasn't been officially signed yet because of the whole Jonathan Kuminga holdup. And it's kind of breaking news because this is the first time that it's been Al Horford acknowledged it on his social media account, and he officially kind of said his farewell to the city of Boston, to the organization with which he spent 7 of his last 9 years. But at the same time, Celtics Media Day is tomorrow, and we knew that Al Horford was not going to be at Media Day tomorrow. We knew that he was not going to be back with the Celtics. It's not even an open secret. It was openly stated by Brad Stevens months ago that it was very unlikely, and since then, all the reporting has been pretty clear that he's going to Golden State. So I was out and about, and when I got the Shams notification, and I was like, I don't know if this is breaking news or not, but in a way, it does mark the end of an era for one of the most important players of this past decade for the Celtics, I would argue. So I did want to jump on here and talk a little bit about that, and I'm sure everybody has some thoughts as well. I know it's the middle of the Patriots game. I don't know how much of an overlap our Celtics and our Patriots fans have. So I'll be curious to see. And then while I'm here, there is some other fun news that we can talk about, and that is the video that Jason Tatum released at midnight last night. I was literally about to go to bed when I saw that Jason Tatum uploaded a YouTube video that showed his highlights. I'm sure if you have been online in the last couple of days, or in the last couple of hours, you have seen in some capacity his highlights out there. So you can make your own conclusions, but I thought that it was really encouraging to see him moving at basketball speed and making basketball moves and cutting and jump stopping. And honestly, I was kind of blown away that that's where he's at in 19 weeks. And I already made my prediction a couple weeks ago that I think he's going to be back this season, but I feel even more confident in that now. So we'll leave that for now because this is going to be mostly focused on Al Horford signing with the Warriors. And I think the first thing I'll say is that I've already seen mixed discourse online around whether Al Horford is a snake for leaving Boston or whether he betrayed the Celtics and the city and all of that. And I would just say there is no such thing really as loyalty in the NBA. And I think you see moments or really unique circumstances. A good example right now is Devin Booker, who is staying with the Phoenix Suns despite the fact that it's a little bit of a tough situation over there. And I don't think it looks super promising in the coming years, but he's going to stick it out in Phoenix. He's going to make a bunch of money, and he is hopefully going to be able to one day bring a championship to Phoenix. And I think that it'll be more meaningful if he's able to do that than if he just hopped around until he landed in a spot where he can be a part of a championship team. So you see moments of it. I think you see with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, if they are able to spend most, if not all, of their career in Boston, I do think that that's way cooler and way more special than if they were to bounce around and spend 3 years at 5 different franchises. You see Damian Lillard right now. I don't know if people saw the rally that they had for him in Portland now that he's back home. It's really cool, right? So there are definitely moments of loyalty in the NBA, and those moments are so few and far between that I think it makes them even more special. But for the most part, players get traded, even if they a year ago were part of a championship. Coaches get fired who led teams to titles literally seasons earlier. And the salary cap and financial situation and all of those things end up mattering more than the storybook ending, right? And so that's been the case for the players on the team side. A perfect example is Marcus Smart, who was the most diehard Celtics player of this generation, I think, but really just embraced the city and green and Boston and all of that. And he gets traded, right? Because the Celtics saw an opportunity to get better. So I'm never going to fault a player for doing something like that, especially the way that he was a free agent. And my understanding was that he got a better deal with the Warriors. Multi-year deal was a little bit misleading because what I've heard, and this is not confirmed reporting, but what I've heard is that this is a player's option in the second year. So he could, in theory, just spend 1 year with the Warriors, but this gives him some insurance that the second year he can either opt in and say he's really bad next year, he has a guaranteed second year on his deal, or he can decide to go back to Boston or go to the Lakers or go whoever else. So multi-year deal sometimes sounds oh, Al signed for 4 years for $50 million. That's not what this is. This is almost undoubtedly a 2-year deal with a second-year player option. And so he could just spend a year in Golden State. And, whether or not this is a good fit for him, I think can be debated. I think from a basketball standpoint, it's a good fit for him. It's a high IQ team. He fits the timeline. Like, he's an older player, obviously aligns better with the timeline of players like Draymond Green and Steph Curry. And they are going to be in the mix in the West. I don't think that they're favorites whatsoever, but they are going to be in the mix. But at the same time, I don't know that this is like, if he's just going to try to get a second title, like, I don't know that that is necessarily going to be the best home for him. I think there's a couple factors at play. He wanted money, he wanted opportunity and minutes and all of those things. And then he also wanted a chance at a title. And I think that in Boston, he was going to have probably a worse chance at a title, all things considered, as much as I'm optimistic about this season. But, I think that that's the case. And then the other pieces, of this is that at the end of the day, like, he probably was able to get more money from Golden State. That's been my understanding. And again, I think a lot of this is not completely clear right now. So, would he have a big role in Boston? Probably. The front court is really, really thin, but they did lose a lot of talent in the offseason. Like, they did not assemble the roster as best as they could to win right now. You can call it a gap year, you can call it whatever you want, but if Al Horford thinks, I might only have 1 year left, like, I can understand from a basketball standpoint why them losing Luke Kornet and Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday and basically getting Anthony Simons back as far as like ready to win now players, with some other guys, I don't want to disparage them, but like, we don't know exactly what they're going to be able to bring. I think you can totally understand like why he would make that call. So I have no critique for Al. That being said, I do think this is a massive loss for the Celtics, both on the court and off the court. Off the court, it's well chronicled that Al Horford is everybody's favorite teammate. He's been nominated for Teammate of the Year the last couple seasons. The young guys are always gushing about how much he's helped them, how much he's mentored them. Joe Mazzulla has talked endlessly about how Al has, made his life easier as a coach and how much he embraced him and all of that. Jason Tatum's explicitly called him the best teammate he's ever had. So there is no shortage of quotes and moments and anecdotes and all of these things about Al Horford as a person. I can say as a media member, Al Horford has been so nice to work with. Like, from the jump, he was super, super helpful, always available pregame. Pregame players can be like, they stare in the locker room, you're allowed to go up to them and ask questions, but most players don't really like talking, but Al always made himself available. I've literally bothered Al about like G League stories pregame, and he's always super gracious about that. So class act, I think that's really pretty well chronicled. What I think honestly has flown a little bit under the radar is what he's been able to bring to the organization on the court, apologies. Because ultimately he was a starter on the 2024 championship team. He was a starter most of last season. He has been a perennial part of everything that they do. Like, he has been an anchor for them defensively. He has been a critical connective piece offensively. He doesn't show up in the box score because he doesn't like tally a ton of assists. But he oftentimes was the hockey assist guy. He was one of the league leaders in passes, actually, when it came to front court players. So I think you can see that he played his role perfectly, and he didn't need to take 10 shots a game. Sometimes he took 2 shots, right? And at the same time, he was a stretch big that would space the floor and had lots of big games and lots of big moments. And I think the most fun thing to watch in these last few years is how he would turn it on in big games, whether it was Cleveland game 5 where he goes off for 3, whether it was, against the Pacers series. Like, he had so many big games where he was able to be super, super effective. And, sometimes against the Hornets, they'd be like, oh, Alex a little slow. Like, maybe this is the end for Al. And then you'd see Al Horford versus the Lakers, like last year versus the Lakers at home game where he was getting hunted the entire night and was getting stop after stop after stop and was just left it all out there. And it's like, okay, this is actually like an elite center still. And so at 39 years old, I do think that Al Horford is still a very good basketball player. And clearly the Warriors do as well. He is their big offseason acquisition. Is it enough for them to compete with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets and these other teams that I think are well positioned to win the West? I don't know. I will say that this Warriors team was looking really good, which people might forget now. And then Steph Curry went down in the playoffs. So I do believe in this Warriors team. It's just, there's probably 8 or 9 teams that could win the title next year, and they're in the bottom half of those, in my opinion. So we'll see how it all plays out, but certainly he has a chance there. And I think if I was a basketball player, I could convince myself more easily that the Warriors could win the title next year than the Celtics in this point. As he saw like so many rotation players leave, he saw Jason Tatum go down. I will just say I don't think there's a world where Al Horford leaves if Jason Tatum is healthy. Like I really don't think that would happen, because now this team would be immediately a title contender. I think his relationship with Tatum is so special as well. Tatum talked about this in an interview with Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated, that like he was hoping to see Al retire with him in Boston. So it's not completely off the table. Like he could come back potentially, in that second year, because I do think that it's not a fully committed multi-year deal, but it is unlikely at this point. So it's probably the end for Al. I know people are going to have some mixed feelings about how it all went down, about the fact that he, ultimately left on his own accord. They did make it. Celtics did offer him a contract. It's not like they didn't want him to come back. But at the same time, I think that there's a pretty good understanding of like why he made this decision. His legacy in Boston to me is going to be not just what he was able to do with the 2022 finals run, and then most importantly, obviously the 2024 title, but also the role that he played as a leader on a team with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, like the role that he played in instilling a championship culture, him being one of the biggest free agency acquisitions they've had in a very long time, which kind of reset this idea that like players want to come to Boston. Al Horford was a massive free agent acquisition, and then coming back for a second stint and just like really almost embracing the city even further. I remember one of my most vivid memories with Al Horford will be 2 days after the Celtics won the title, and he was at a Raising Cane's event. He didn't go with them to Miami. He was literally home between the moment they won the title and this event. And it was his first time leaving the house. And there was just thousands and thousands of people on the street trying to catch a glimpse of Al Horford outside of this Raising Cane's, on Boylston Street. I think it was for like a commercial, like the usual thing that they do after championships. And you could just see his emotion. And he was like, I really wanted to win a championship, but I wanted to do it in Boston. And I think he got this fixation, especially once he re-signed with the, after he came back to the Celtics the second time around, after leaving for the 76ers. Like, I think he wanted to win a title in Boston so bad. And he was adamant about going back to back. I remember speaking to him right before last season, and, there were rumors that maybe he was going to retire. And he was like, not at all. Like, I want to, we really want to do this. This whole team was really focused on going back to back. Like, it was not a, like, oh, let's see how we can, if we can do it again. Like, that was a very explicit intention that they have. And I think that he was at the forefront of all of that. So obviously they fall short, a lot of reasons for that. We've unpacked those a million times, but certainly a disappointing second round series against the Knicks. And I think at that point, like, I remember vividly the night that Tatum tore his Achilles. Al Horford was the first Celtics player to speak that night. He was in the locker room, and it was just this like terrible feeling in that locker room where everybody was upset. Tatum's mom was running around. Everybody's trying to grab like Tatum's things. And at this point, I think we all knew it was a ruptured Achilles, but they hadn't officially said that to the press yet. And Al's answering questions about the loss. And he kept saying, I'm really much more worried about Jason right now. Like, I'm not, they're obviously the Celtics were down 3-1 and it was a bad place to be. They had the opportunity to tie the series up, but he was like, I'm really much more worried about Jason. And in that moment, I remember looking at him, and I said this to the other reporters afterwards, but I said, I'm pretty sure we just watched Al Horford wear this uniform, like, in this building for the last time. Like, I don't think we're going to see, like, I think this is it for Al and the Celtics. And I never would have thought that morning, because that morning, all the reporting indicated that Al Horford was, he was going to, push for the best contract that he could get and play hardball. Like, certainly he is somebody that has a lot of, confidence, and I would say an ego, a healthy ego, and wants to be valued and wants to be compensated accordingly. And that's gotten him very far. But you could feel that the Tatum injury changed his fate instantly. And I don't think that it was like a closed door. Like, there wasn't a pathway forward for him to return to Boston. Like, I think that was still on the table. But the reality is that as soon as that happened, the odds that he was going to come back just plummeted, because it just changed the situation with this team. It made it much easier for this to be a reset year. And it makes more sense for the Celtics to see kind of who else they have in their front court for the future, right? To guys like Neemias Queta, Luka Garza. Like, I don't know if these players are going to pan out as full-time NBA players. Like, I really don't. And I'll know much more in a month or two once they're actually playing that role. But there's a certain point where you could see like there are going to be guys that get an opportunity now. Like that's the advantage with having this thinner roster. So I still think, honestly, I think he should have resigned. Like, I think that he has a great thing here. He's a legend here. He's beloved. If I were him, I would rather close out my career here. And his odds of getting his uniform retired was, probably a lot higher. His number retired, probably a lot higher if he stays in Boston. I think it would, he could play a different role here as a mentor, as a leader, kind of this bridge piece. But it's just not really the reality in the NBA. Like, I wish that was the way that it worked, but you go through things like, why did Michael Jordan play on the Wizards? Why did Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce not finish out their career in Boston? Like, it's just that this is just the way that things work. It's not the ideal like storybook finish. It's so rare to have like the Kobe Bryant, Dirk Nowitzki type arcs. And think that if I were a player, if I were like a Jason Tatum or a Devin Booker, and it's feasible for me to finish on my career here, I would definitely do it. But Al's already played for 4 different teams, right? So at the end of the day, like right now, I think it hurts for Celtics fans, but in a couple of years, I don't think that it's going to be like the last year that he spent in Golden State. That's probably not going to be the most consequential year. It honestly probably won't really matter. And maybe he goes there and he wins a title. And then, I know everybody hates what Ray Allen did, but Ray Allen got a chip out of it. So you definitely can't criticize it too much. So talk a little bit more. Feel free to put in your Al Horford related questions. But first, a quick message over from our friends over at Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Prize Picks is a fun and simple experience where you can select your favorite players. For example, I really like watching Josh Allen play. I can decide if I want to do more or less than 270 pass yards or whatever the player call-out projections are each week. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you should cash in. Prize Picks is also the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Prize Picks puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and accurate, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So if you're just joining, Al Horford has officially agreed to a multi-year deal with the Golden State Warriors. And I think there's a little bit of a mixed reaction. Some people are like, this is an all-time legend and, good for Al. Others feel like, Al should have stayed in Boston and that he betrayed the organization. And I think the reality is that this is just the business side. And I wish the business side wasn't so prominent. Like I didn't get into this to write about salary caps and talk about money and all. Like I just, I wanted storybook basketball. So I wish it wasn't the case, but that ends up being the case with how kind of these things go. So when he signed that 2-year extension with the Celtics a couple years back, it was probably the best thing that could happen for Boston because he was just so fundamental these past few years, more important than he should have been. A lot of it is a reflection on how unavailable Kristaps Porzingis was at times, but also just the high level that he continued to play. And if you go back and look at that 2024 run, like he was a foundational piece. And so I don't know if that's how people remember it. Like I saw some people say online things like, oh, the Celtics gave him a title and now he leaves. It's like, no, he was actually a fundamental part of winning that title. So I don't know about the whole like jersey retirement. I think a lot of people are going to wonder whether his number will be retired, whose number will be retired from this Celtics era. The obvious ones are Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I don't think anybody will wear number 0 or number 7 again. But the other guys, I'm really not sure. Like, Derek White has could get there. Who knows how long he'll stay a Celtic. But certainly if you win a second title, like that certainly helps your odds. But I think Al Horford is one of those, like he was right on the cusp. And so, whether him retiring in Boston would have made a difference, I don't know. I do know that there are already so few numbers with the Celtics that I'm always pro, like, give the thing that if you're ever like, oh, does this guy deserve a tribute video, like give him the tribute video. Why not? But with jersey retirements, you have to be like a little bit more careful because there's a finite number of numbers, right? So that is the reality that you can retire everybody's jerseys. Someone here said 0 and 7 aren't close to being retired. I don't see a world where Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown's jersey numbers are ever worn again, but we'll see. We'll see if there's a case to be made against that. I would be surprised. But in any case, he will now, I don't know if he'll do media day with the Warriors this week. He hasn't officially signed, so he might not be available, but we already knew he was not going to be with Boston, and we already knew he was going to Golden State. It's nothing particularly new. What will the Celtics do in his absence? I think the reality is that the front court is the biggest weakness for this team. Every time I start to think about, like, okay, maybe this team will actually be like a fifth seed. Maybe they're going to overperform expectations and just be better than we expect them to. And I start to think about, like, okay, Jaylen Brown could take another step. Derek White, his numbers are really good if you look at his like individual numbers, and his ability to shoulder the offensive load, I think, is pretty impressive. Peyton Pritchard, I think, will take a leap. Anthony Simons, at this point, we've really not been thinking about him because I think a lot of people expected him to be traded in the offseason. Anthony Simons is very likely going to be averaging 20 points a game for Boston. Like, there are a lot of ways that I can start thinking about this team, and I can get there, and I can get excited about what the potential is offensively, defensively, all of those things. And then I get to the front court, because if you just look at the backcourt, like Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, and Anthony Simons, that's like one of the best three-man shooting rotations from any team's backcourt. Like, all three of those guys are elite shooters. I think you're going to see a lot of offensive production and capabilities there. Obviously, Jaylen Brown, his health is going to be important, like his availability, all of these things. But then you get to the front court and it's just difficult, right? So Neemias Queta, this is his year. This is going to be his opportunity. I would imagine that right now he's at the top of the pecking order as far as like who's your starting center on opening night in just a couple weeks here. It's probably Neemias Queta. There's other guys that are in the mix. Chris Boucher will give you some of those front court minutes, probably more at the 4. Luka Garza, who has played limited minutes with the Wolves at this point, hasn't shot particularly well, but could, in theory, is a good shooter, somebody that can space the floor, somebody who you have to respect the shot. Like, he's going to be in the mix as well. A name that I haven't really heard much people discuss, including I haven't really discussed him much, is Xavier Tillman. I think Xavier Tillman is, had a really tough year last year. He didn't shoot the ball well. He didn't look confident offensively. I don't think he was particularly healthy. But at the same time, this is a guy that played finals minutes in 2024. So if he had a good offseason, and I haven't talked to him all offseason, we'll probably hear from him this week, but he is somebody that could vie for some of those front court minutes. I don't think we're going to see like Amari Williams, who was their 46th draft pick this season. I think he's going to be in Maine primarily. So there's probably, some of the younger guys that are vying for spots I don't think we're going to see much of. So it's going to come down to Neemias Queta, Luka Garza, Chris Boucher. Like, those are your 3 guys that I think you're kind of relying on. Josh Minot, I think I've been underestimating him. The Celtics are excited about him and what he could bring. Talked to some Warriors, Minnesota Timberwolves people, and I think for him, it's been about staying locked in, staying focused on the game plan, attention to detail, all of that. So athletically, like, he has some nice intangibles, and he has the wingspan and athleticism and that sort of thing, but he just hasn't been able to lock in on the game plan as well. So we'll see. Is that something that you can get better at? Definitely. Is it going to happen? TBD. Can he shoot? That's a question as well. I don't think we necessarily know. And then Queta is the big question. Queta had a pretty good Eurobasket, I would say. I thought that he, had flashes of like, okay, this is an NBA caliber, like, starting center with his rim protection and things like that. But can he shoot is an open question. How versatile defensively is he going to be is an open question. I think his numbers were like, he was about an average NBA center last year in the minutes that he played. But is that enough to play 35 minutes a night? We know he's a good rebounder. We know that he has gotten a lot better at finishing around the basket. So he's probably the biggest solution to like who replaces Al. It is probably Queta, which also is why this team is not going to be as good next year, because he was their 4th string center last year, right? Like, Porzingis, Horford, and Kornet were all ahead of him. So I would feel better about the Celtics if they had re-signed Luke Kornet, but we've known for a few months now that Luke Kornet is in San Antonio and he's going to be on the Spurs. So I don't know. We'll see. That the front court is definitely the biggest theme, the biggest question for me. When we are at Media Day tomorrow, we'll hear from Joe Mazzulla. We'll hear from most of the players in the rotation. Like, I would imagine we hear from maybe the top 8 or 9 players in the rotation. I would say that the front court and who's going to play center minutes and kind of the battle between those guys is going to be one of the biggest themes of training camp tomorrow. And Freddie Simons and his integration to this roster, I think, will be a big theme as well, because ultimately he's one of the most talented players on this team, and we've never heard him talk. We don't know him at all, and he's potentially going to be an important part of what they do on both ends. And big question for there is defensively. So we've known Al Horford's not going to be here. We've been talking openly about how he's not going to be back. Jason Tatum has been talking openly about it in his interviews. Like, it's not really news, but it is real now. And he did turn on social media. He posted this on Twitter and on Instagram that he is, let me actually read the exact statement for those of you that haven't seen it. But he's bidding farewell to the place where he spent the last 7 of the last 9 years of his career. And ultimately, he had a good run in Atlanta as well. Like, he's going to be a little bit of a legend there as well. His mom still lives there. He spent a lot of his offseason there. But this is where he won his title. This is where he's been as beloved as he could possibly be. He says, from the moment we arrived, you welcomed my family and I with open arms. This chapter in my career will hold a special place in my heart. Raising banner 18 with the city will be a moment I will always cherish. I am forever grateful for the fans and the organization. Thank you, Boston. And if you were there for that title, if you were around Boston during that time, like, I think Al winning the chip meant more to his teammates and more to the average fan than maybe any other player. So certainly a very beloved member of this championship core of this era. If he hadn't won it, I think he would have been in like the Marcus Smart category of like culture shifter, contributor, like beloved role player. But winning the title, it does kind of change your standing long term. And I think that ultimately this is not like a move where this is not going to go down as like a Ray Allen move, right? Like, I think people are going to get over this one much quicker. So that's it on Al. I will say, I have to mention the Jason Tatum video that came out last night, because it's just so unreal that at 19 weeks he's doing the kinds of things that he's been doing. And you can find it. It's all over social media at this point. Jason Tatum's workout. He's now had 3 or 4 on-court workouts. Monday was his first time back on the court. And then Tuesday, he did that big media tour where he spoke to like a dozen outlets about how his recovery's been going and how he hasn't ruled out coming back this season. So I do think Tatum will be back this season. I've already punched that in. I've already made that prediction, so I'm comfortable sticking with it. But I will say that I also think that at a certain point, the expectations should be tempered for what he's going to be able to contribute this season when he does return. So even if Jason Tatum comes back, even if he is cleared in March and plays the last month or so, I don't think he's going to be first team All-NBA Jason Tatum that shoulders the offensive and defensive and rebounding load that he normally does. I think it's going to be a more limited version of him. So it would still be great news with the way that he's been moving in this video and the way that he's been talking and everything that I've heard from people in the organization around just like how diligent, how committed he's been. He's been in the building all summer. When we were there the other day for the Bill Chisholm press conference, like, Jason Tatum was walking around the court. He was doing weight training. Like, he's been 100% locked in. And he's talking about how he thinks that this is the most time he's had to work on his body. So that positions him well, I think, to coming back from this injury. So he's super mentally, seems like he's in a really good place, which is obviously a great thing. He's talked openly about how difficult the first few hours and first few weeks were after rupturing his Achilles last spring. So all good news coming out of Jason Tatum's workouts. And certainly I think there is a possibility now that he'll be back this year. And I'm sure there will be many factors, including whether this team is in position to do anything meaningful. Like, if they are tanking and he's cleared with 5 games to play, like, you probably just hold off at that point. But if they're battling for the 4th seed and there's a month left in the season, I think he's gonna come back. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, he doesn't even really know the answer yet. But certainly it was encouraging. And if you want to watch and hear more directly from him, he posted a YouTube video where he talks about his recovery journey. Part of it is also launching his Tatum 4s, which I shared. They're super cool, very cool new sneakers that he has now in the market. So it's all kind of aligning for him, I think, the marketing side, and then also opening up and kind of talking to the public right before media day. So that is it for now. Last thing that I'll say here before I wrap up is that the WNBA playoffs continue today, game 4. Both game 4s, one is at 3 p.m. today, one is at 8 p.m. And we will have coverage on our new YouTube channel, WNBA Today on CLNS. Go subscribe, go check it out. If you are a basketball fan that is looking for some high stakes basketball in the coming weeks here, we have all of your coverage needs on WNBA Today on CLNS. our brand new YouTube channel where I have reactions after every game. So I'll be reacting to today's Fever Aces game as well as today's Lynx Mercury game. Both of those are potential games to advance the WNBA finals. So even if you're just a casual WNBA fan or if you're mostly an NBA fan, this is a good time to lock in for the finals. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Leave us a like, comment, subscribe to CLNS Media, subscribe to You Got Boston podcast. Enjoy the WNBA playoffs if you are going to be watching that. And we'll be back. We have tons of coverage coming tomorrow. Media Day, we're going to hear from a bunch of all the press conferences will be uploaded on CLNS Media. Turn on notifications. We're going to be going live throughout the day. So enjoy that. And I'm excited to be back in the building, back at the Auerbach Center. We have 5 training camp practices this week. So that's it for now. If you're going back to watch the Patriots game, enjoy that. If you're going to watch WNBA, enjoy that. And thank you as always for watching.